A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the program. It's a Wednesday morning. Of course, that means it's time for you and I to get together to talk right here on Let's Talk. Lovely interviews lined up for you this morning. We're going to be looking at Tree of Hope baby savers. These are the people that go out and literally save babies from bins, toilets, gutters, etc. Let's hear their story. Then we also look at the comrades for Philistine. But first up, we're going to talk to someone who's on the show for the second time with an amazing story. The first time around was the documentary. We discussed the documentary, Indians Can't Fly, and the docu-maker, none other than Enver Samuels, is in studio talking about amazing award that is won for the second documentary on the Ahmed Timol inquest. So all of that on the show right now. Let me introduce you to Enver Samuels. I'm so excited to have him in studio, and I'm so proud of him. We as South Africans should be proud of him because he's produced two amazing documentaries, and both of them have bagged a couple of awards. Enver, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Congratulations.
Thanks a lot.
Proud moment not only for you, but for all of South Africa, very especially when you're telling the story of one of our sons, the assassinated Ahmed Timol. We spoke last year when you won the award for Indians Can't Fly. Just summarize that for us quickly before we go on to your current award.
Okay. So Indians Can't Fly was a documentary made for the SABC, and essentially that documentary told us who Ahmed Timol was, told us about where he grew up, what motivated him to go into the struggle, and it also spoke about Imtiaz Kaji, his nephew's quest to find out the truth as to what happened to his uncle.
And Imtiaz has been absolutely relentless, has he not?
Yes.
And just look where it's
Yes.
brought the entire South Africa, the truth being told, and here you sitting having documented the inquest as well.
Yes, and basically that documentary finished, and it ended with George Bezos saying that there was no one to blame, because that's how the inquest ended, that there was no one to blame. The original inquest, there was no one to blame for Ahmed Timol's death.
That was very disappointing,
yes.
Very especially coming from a heavyweight like George Bezos. Yes. But I guess he followed the facts,
yes.
and the facts placed before him led him to that conclusion. Yes. So you can't say that he was biased in any way.
No. Oh no. So I mean, he was simply reflecting what the inquest had said. So it wasn't his opinion. He was just basically reflecting what the sham inquest had said, the apartheid inquest had said, that there was no one to blame for Ahmed Timol's death, which we all knew was a lie. And so, flash forward to, that was 2015. Flash forward to 2017, and after relentless work by the Timol family and Imtiaz Kaji, there was suddenly a date announced for a historic inquest, unprecedented in South African case law history, of now finally having another inquest that was going to look at the possibility of actually uncovering the truth as to what happened to Ahmed Timol.
The first time around, with the making of the documentary Indians Can't Fly, you obviously worked very closely with the Timol family, particularly with Imtiaz Kaji, and you became a part of the family. When you heard that there was going to be an inquest, how did you feel about it? And
Yes.
did you truly believe that there was going to be such an excellent result thereafter? Because the family wanted answers. The
Yes.
family wanted to clear their loved ones' names. The family wanted the world to know what exactly happened.
Yeah. I must say, so when I got the dates of the inquest, I was actually tied up on a contract It had just started. I was 3 weeks into a 5-month contract.
The first documentary?
No, we're talking about this one. It happened in the first one also.
Yes, as well.
So,
I remember us having that conversation.
So I've got a 5-month contract. I get the dates, and then I have to make a decision. And I think what will be a critical decision for me is, do I, as a freelancer, seek the comfort of a 5-month contract? Or do I follow my heart and say that I know that this is going to be important, I know that it's going to have an impact, it's going to be daunting and challenging, but so I followed my heart, I tore up the contract, and I decided to follow the inquest, which happened in 2017 over 3 months, from about June to August. And
which also meant that that all you had to eat for the 3 months was bread and tea, because there was no money coming in.
Exactly, yes. So I covered that for 3 months with no contract, just believing in that the story was strong enough to hold out, that I wasn't just doing this for the sake of doing it, but that it would get a broadcaster. And a year later, the SABC came on board and then commissioned it, and then I was able to finish the documentary. But the critical thing was to make the decision to follow the inquest, and we recorded the inquest it happened over 3 months, over 20 days, and each and every day, myself and my crew were there to follow the inquest, and that was the basis of the documentary. The inquest was the body of the documentary, and then we worked around the inquest.
Now, you won a couple of awards for the first documentary, Indians Can't Fly. You've gone on and have subsequently won the Golden Horn Award. Did you kind of think that this was going to be a difficult act to follow, seeing that you had bagged a couple of awards for Indians Can't Fly? And I'm sure you're a very modest, down-to-earth guy. I'm sure that was not back of mind, that you're doing this to win awards. You really wanted to tell the story.
Exactly. I mean, that was the furthest thing from my mind, that let's do this because there's a possibility of winning an award. The main reason was to recognize the importance of the story, and to follow my heart, to basically to do it with no commission. So but it was again to carry on with the legacy of Ahmed Timol, and it was a no-brainer for me that the story had to be told. And as you could see, I mean, every day in the court, the press was there, from local to international. It was one of the top stories of 2017, and every day that I was in court, I said, okay, thank God that you decided to do this, because you can see how important it is.
How difficult was it, knowing that the international press was there as well? And we know that there are certain restrictions as far as these type of hearings, these high-profile inquests and hearings go. Were there restrictions in place, or were you kind of, did you get easy access just in your corner, filming the proceedings and then trying to make sense of what's going down?
Yeah. So, I mean, there were restrictions, like, okay, you place your camera there and you don't cross the line, but I've got a unique way of getting what I want to get. And so if you look, like in the initial footage, we were across the line, but I spoke to the judge's assistant and got to know him well, and every day you'd see our camera creeping closer and closer and closer till we were actually, like, that's the witness box.
Right.
We had placed our camera right there.
Wow.
And that's the access that I wanted. I wanted to be very close to the accused, and get those shots where you see the definition of their face and their eyes and their hands, because because
body language, you wanted to pick up on all of that, and facial expressions. And you managed to capture all of that. And that was very crucial as far as your documentary is concerned. And also the fact that you bagged the award, because that was, the facial expressions and body language was telling a story of its own.
Yes, exactly. 100%, because one could see that everything built up to the security police testimony. I mean, the whole case was built up on expert testimony, and it worked perfectly, and how they tore up the original inquest, and you could see that it was all a blatant lie. But it built up to us getting the security police, and they actually now going to tell us what happened. But they refused to, and specifically Rodriguez, the last man in the room with Timol, room 1026. And so that's why the body language was very important, because you can almost see the lie in the body language, so, and that's why the access to getting up close and personal was very critical.
Because the body language would tell the story as it is.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what they were verbalizing, the body language tells it all. Let's go for our first ad break. We'll be back to talk some more about your award and this amazing documentary. And that was on the inquest. What was that documentary called? The Ahmed Timol Inquest.
Yeah, Someone to Blame, the Ahmed Timol Inquest.
There you go. Yes. I'm talking to Enver Samuels. He is the producer of the two documentaries on the Ahmed Timol story, and we are so proud. He's won awards the first time around on Indians Can't Fly, and this time around he's won several awards as well, and he's going to tell us all about that right after the ad break, so don't go away. Enver Samuels is a documentary filmmaker. He's in studio with me talking about his latest documentary, which has won numerous awards, one of them being showcased here on our set this morning. The documentary is for, the award is for the documentary Someone to Blame, the Ahmed Timol Inquest, and you may remember he was on my show last year as well, when he won awards for Indians Can't Fly, the first documentary that he made, which was screened on the SABC. So we're talking to him about his work and, of course, what these awards mean to him. Before we get to that, this relationship that you have with Ahmed Kaji and his family, and then you were for 20-odd days in court documenting everything. Mm-hmm. How did it affect you personally, because you now have a relationship with this family?
If one had a look around the court to see the people that were attending, because basically I get caught up in the job that I have to do, but every day to look at the people's faces, the emotion from the family, the emotion from I think sometimes just there's people that were wanting to know what is going on. It was very touching. It was very emotional. It was, almost every day in court there were tears were flowing, anger, disbelief.
And it impacts on you.
And it impacts on you. Yes.
Impacts on you.
Yeah. So it's not easy, but one has to carry on to achieve the goal of getting finished with what you intended to do.
Ahmed Kaji, the nephew of Imtiaz Kaji, the nephew of Ahmed Timol, he's been fighting long and hard for the truth to come through, to come out. Finally, through the inquest, the truth has been told. Yes. Obviously, the family feels totally vindicated. Where to for him from here? Yeah. I know that you have close ties with him, and I will invite him to come in to tell his story, but from your perspective.
So I think with the where to from here, what was happening in court again was, some families who it has happened to them. Like, for instance, Matthews Mabelani, he was thrown out of the 10th floor like 10 years later.
Yes.
So his brothers used to come to court, and they were basically seeing what was happening and unfolding in front of them, and learning basically, so that now it would become their opportunity to motivate to have an inquest into how their brother died. So basically, what IMTAS wants to do now, I think, is to assist all these other families.
Wow.
Because now he has the expertise.
Absolutely.
With this first inquest. So there are hundreds of people that would potentially be wanting to learn from him how to follow suit.
So he's going to make it his life's work.
Yes.
What do these awards mean for you, Enver Samuels, as a producer? And I know you've had awards, you've won awards in the past, but as you said to me, those were all team awards. These two on the Ahmed Timol stories, both the Ahmed Timol stories, were awards in your own personal capacity.
Yes.
What does it mean for your career?
So, I mean, we never go into making like a documentary and say, okay, I'm making this documentary because I want to win an award. I go into it because I'm convinced that the story I want to tell is strong enough, and something is resonating within me. But without a doubt now, like for example, if I call someone at the SABC, it's not like who's calling, you know.
They jump to take your call.
Yes, so I seem to get answers. I seem to get, if I request a meeting, I get accommodated. So hopefully
they recognize your good
yes,
work.
yeah.
What does it do for you globally as far as the film industry is concerned?
Yeah, I mean, so if you take Someone to Blame, so far this year it's been selected for a festival in Canada, Bangkok. I just returned from Bangkok about a month ago. It's just been selected for the Festival of the Dao, that's in Zanzibar, a very big festival. The acceptance letter said, congratulations, your documentary has been selected from over 3,000 applications.
That's huge.
It's just finished a big South African festival called Encounters. So potentially when I try to do my next documentary and I want to involve overseas partners, they look at the award you've won and then they're more accommodating if you want to do a co-production between South Africa and France. You know, it just paves the way for more access. For
any partnership, for that matter, globally and locally. Yeah. Obviously, these awards don't come with a monetary prize, but the award itself is a huge accolade on the work, the years and years of expertise and experience and love that you put into your work.
Yes.
So where to from here? These two awards, both the Timol Awards, Indians Can't Fly and Someone to Blame, is truly a hard act to follow. Mm-hmm. How do you follow up? What is your next big venture? Yeah. Do you think you can match what you've done up to now, or better perhaps?
So, I mean, it's an interesting question because, like, I think the bug is bitten. I want to tell more of these stories because it's not just Ahmed Timol that was affected by the atrocities of apartheid. There are hundreds and hundreds of cases. I mean, when the TRC concluded, they recommended that over 300 cases be investigated further. And now that the Timol inquest has happened and reached its conclusion, there now seems to be a willingness by the NPA and government to look at the other cases. And so the Timol case opened the door for more cases, and I've actually taken this idea to the SABC to do more of these stories, and had quite a good response from them. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed because there's Neil Agate is about to happen soon, the Similani case, and various others. So it's something that I want to pursue because I think South Africans need to know what happened in the past.
But you've got to stretch your imagination because you've got to make it interesting enough with all the subsequent inquests that you're going to be documenting. And you've got to take different and interesting angles. How do you do that?
Well, you see, that's the thing is that each of these cases, they might be tied into an inquest that has to happen, but each of them are such different stories, different backgrounds. They come from different backgrounds. They were motivated by different activities, and they're all so unique. So I don't actually worry about how do I tell them differently. Like the current one I'm working on now is on Dulcie September. Dulcie September was from Cape Town, from Athlone. She was sentenced to treason. She got released. She was banned. She decided to take an exit permit, and she went to London. I got into contact with the ANC there. Then was posted to Zambia. Then got this big post as the head representative of the ANC in France, Switzerland, and Luxembourg. And a few years later, she was assassinated by the apartheid regime. So I don't have a fear of how I'm going to tell her story differently, because she has her own unique characteristics.
Absolutely.
And each of them, if you do the research and try to find out a bit more about the different cases, they're all very, very unique and different.
Now, I know you're involved in a lot of reality TV as well, like Survivor. You cancelled the My Kitchen Rule contracts simply because you were following the inquest and you felt this was a story you had to tell. Difficult question maybe, but if you had to make a choice from your reality TV to these very serious documentaries or docudramas, which would you follow and why?
I guess my wife won't like my answer. But it's almost like I've found my calling. I want to do these stories, no matter what it's doing to my bank balance. I feel that I want to do them. They're important. So there's no contest.
It's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer, yes.
What are you working on currently, apart from the Dulcie September? Because these documentaries then get done within a space of about 5 to 6 months. And in between, I presume you're busy with reality TV. Tell us about that. And that's really lightweight, fun stuff compared to this very intense, emotionally gripping stuff that you're involved in. And I'm sure it must be very draining, the serious documentaries. What do you get out of the light reality stuff? Must be fun.
It's fun. I mean, in January and February, I was in Samoa, working on Survivor as a content producer. It pays the bills, but it's also kind of a relief to be doing something where
emotional relief, of course.
Yes, exactly. And working with top professionals in the industry, so it's nice from that point of view that you get to challenge yourself and because I mean if you watch Survivor, I mean it's now currently like top rated. It looks beautiful. It looks like you can't compare the difference between an American one and the South African one. So it's nice to push the limits in terms of the technical and creative point of view. But at the end of the day, it is light entertainment, and then it gives you kind of escape from the hard stuff.
Absolutely, We've come to the end of the interview. What do you want to leave our viewers with? And I do hope you're going to come back once your subsequent documentaries have been made, and we'd please like to continue talking to you.
Can I just read? Howard Varney was the lead lawyer on the Timol inquest, and he in his concluding statements he wrote something so profound. Is it possible to just have a quick read of it?
Please.
So it's the last points on his closing statement. As the blows rain down on him, that's Ahmed Timol, as he's repeatedly suffocated, as electrical currents raced through his body, as his life force slowly slipped away, he would have looked to the future of his country, a future he had fought for and would die for. The shining future Ahmed gazed upon in his final moments is our democratic South Africa, our constitutional order in which fundamental rights are guaranteed for all. He would have known that his approaching death would ultimately help pave the way for a new South Africa with its enshrined freedoms, a South Africa in which an independent judiciary would wash away the lies and deception and expose the truth of his final days and hours. Ahmed would have wanted this, not for his own sake, but to ensure the eradication of torture and brutality in his beloved South Africa.
Oh, how painful, how awfully painful. Thank you indeed for bringing it to us. Good luck with your future. We can't wait, like I said, to have you in again to talk about your future successes. And I know there's going to be lots more of those. Enver Samuels, thanks once again.
Thank you so much.
Enver Samuels, the award-winning documentary maker, talking to us about Someone to Blame, the Ahmed Timol inquest. And I'm so pleased that he was here to share his story with us, and we wish him much success for the future. Don't go away, lots more to come on the show this morning. From the very serious stuff, we go on to the fun stuff. I'm not quite sure if Comrades Marathon is fun stuff. I wonder just how much of a beating does your body take. So we have a runner in studio with us. His name is Ali Komape. He's from BDS, and he's going to tell us why he suffered and decided to take the suffering running the Comrades Marathon in the name of an exceptionally good cause. Ali, morning, welcome to the program.
Morning to you and morning to the viewers at home.
Thank you for being here, and are you fully recovered now?
I like to think so. I went to a 10-kilometer run yesterday. My body is adjusting, so I'm getting back in
back
shape.
Into the rhythm, so
yes,
to
I'm
speak.
getting back into the rhythm, yes.
Okay, you work at BDS. What do you do at BDS? And tell us, I have no doubt that our viewers know who and what the BDS is all about, but in your own words, tell us what the BDS is all about and why you've chosen to be part of this organization.
Look, I think, Julie, the South African experience, the South African history, behoves all South Africans, like myself, to support the Palestinian cause because the similarities are just outstanding. So I got into activism when I was still in university, and there was South African Student Congress, these political organizations on campus that deal with international students, refugees, and so on, asylum seekers who are students on campus, and so on. And then we came across the Palestinian question through these organizations that do international work. And the similarities were just outstanding. It really felt like, I owe it as a South African who enjoys freedom today to give solidarity to Palestinians. And that's how I got involved with BDS and Palestine solidarity work from university until this day.
Wonderful. Keep up the good work. Keep that flag flying as high as you possibly can, because apart from Palestine, there are lots of pockets throughout the world where people are continually being oppressed, suppressed, and their rights are being taken away or have been taken away. They are voiceless, and we need people like you to give voices to the voiceless. That being said, you decided that you're going to run the Comrades Marathon to create awareness for the Palestinian people. Does that mean that you have always been interested and involved in running and felt that this is doable, I'd be able to do it, probably suffer in the process, but do it in the name of the Palestinian people and create as much awareness as I can?
Yes, of course. I think it's a year now since I've taken up running, primarily for the Palestinian cause. So I've run a number of marathons across the country, and the ultimate one being
the past year.
Yes, the past year. So I've run a number of marathons I've been doing for the Palestinian cause. And I'm not the only one. There are a number of Palestine runners in South Africa and worldwide. The other Palestinian runners call themselves Freedom of Movement. They are based in Bethlehem. So what they do is they run marathons across the world also to show other people in the world that they don't have freedom of movement.
Wow.
When you're in Bethlehem, you can't move from one village to the other. There are Israeli checkpoints. You are perpetually harassed. You don't have that freedom of movement. Similar to South Africa in a pass system. You remember the pass law system?
Yes, even worse.
You couldn't go from one township to the other one. You couldn't go from Benoni to Johannesburg without a dome pass. Yes, so Palestinians are going through the same thing. So when they run marathons in Bethlehem, they literally go in circles because they don't have a route to run.
They're restricted.
Of course. So they raise awareness on this infringement of the freedom of movement. So it's a larger group of people who run for Palestine. There's Suleiman in Cape Town, who's quite famous for doing it also. There are other runners in Durban as well. So it's continuing to be a global phenomenon where people say, what can I do for Palestine? Oh, I'm a runner. Let me do it for Palestine.
How much awareness do you believe that the running creates, number one, and in the process, all the other runners like yourself who's running for the Palestinian cause, do you raise funds in the process?
Well, particularly myself, I don't raise funds, but what the work we do at BDS South Africa is to get the Palestinian cause and question in conversations, and that's what we really want to do. One of our goals is for you, Julie, when you're on a dinner table with your family, to say, but what's happening in Gaza is wrong. What can I do? And that's when BDS comes in. BDS says you can boycott, you can divest, you can sanction apartheid Israel. So as long as slowly but surely we are driving the conversation of the Palestinian cause, that's how greater work gets to be done. During South African apartheid, it had to take people to convince others in the world to sit on a dinner table and say, but what's happening in South Africa is incorrect. And that's when action came after. So we are driving this conversation, and when I'm running, this huge support from the supporters on the stands, from fellow runners who are running the cause. They really do identify the cause, like, no, we appreciate what you're doing. And from there, they will tell the next person, or the next person who sees that, what is that guy running for? And then we drive a conversation of what needs to be done thereafter.
Is it enough? Shouldn't more be done to escalate the plight of the Palestinian people?
I think it's not enough. I do not want to sound skeptic, but every action towards the freedom of Palestinians, this is not enough until Palestinians are free. We are to do more and do more and do more. I believe that I'm a believer in international solidarity work. And I believe that if it wasn't for international solidarity work, South Africa could not have been free even till today. So I believe the isolation of the state of Israel, the boycotting of Israeli goods, the sanctioning of Israel, the academic boycott of Israel, those are measures that we must intensify towards the freedom of Palestinians. And Julie, this is not some philanthropy work, sorry. It's what Palestinians have asked for. So Palestinians have asked for us to boycott, divest, and sanction apartheid Israel. So we are giving Palestinians what they've asked for, and they believe this is a means to an end of Israeli apartheid. So, for instance, the academic boycott that's going on in University of Cape Town, we are to support it. We are to support the students and activists in UCT to continue the fight to isolate apartheid Israel within their institutions. We know this because the same happened to universities in South Africa. Universities were isolated worldwide, and South African universities could not operate, or it was a taboo to be affiliated with the South African universities. So those are some of the measures that we should intensify and do more to isolate apartheid Israel.
You spoke about divestment, and we know over the years BDS has been very active in holding large corporations, large chain stores, etc. in South Africa to account, boycott Israeli goods, etc. Or probably even those organizations that send money across to the Israelis. How successful have those campaigns been?
I think we've been extremely, as BDS, when we rate our success, we've been extremely successful in getting consumers to be conscious. So there have been a number of cases where chain stores in the country try to hide that products are from Israel.
How do they do that?
So let's say the product is from Israel and in the settlements, and Israel will cover it up that is from Palestine, right? So by consumer law, you are forced to say this product that I'm selling is from Limpopo, Polokwane, or Gauteng. You are out to say it, especially when you've imported it. So Israel has been trying to, and it's not a South African case only, in other parts of the world, they've been trying to do that with the wines from the settlements and so on. So we've successfully had a number of people who have taken chain stores in the country to the Consumer Commission to say, but no, this is incorrect. So by doing that, I think there's no chain store in South Africa.
Do they get penalized for something like that? I mean, it's not a legal issue per se. You can't take them to court. But they are misrepresenting their products or misrepresenting as far as the consumer is concerned. What happens in a situation like that? Do they get fined?
I don't know the finer details, and I'm not a legal person, but I know it's wrong, and they can be charged for it by the Consumer Commission. So there's no chain store, I can tell you, Julie, that can say, I proudly source Israeli goods and I will sell it to the world. They try to hide it for whatever reason, because associating yourself with apartheid Israel is not a great thing to talk about. So when they are caught, and we really do encourage viewers at home, consumers at home, that when you look at tomatoes and you see that they're from Israel, you take it up with your store owner, take it up with your chain, take it up with the manager, say this is unethical, this is wrong. So they are found, they are charged. I don't know the final details of the other cases, but they do get penalized for that. And for us as BDS, we can say in South Africa, we've made Israel very unpopular. We've made Israel
and very uncomfortable, I should imagine.
Of course.
Let's go for an ad break. When we come back, we'll talk some more about running for Palestine. Ali Komape is in studio. He's from the BDS, talking about his marathon run to create awareness for the plight of the Palestinian people. Ali Komape is my guest. He's from the BDS. We're talking about his marathon run for the plight of the Palestinian people. Let's just get back to your run. Were you satisfied that you created the awareness? And do you believe that the people back in Palestine were aware that you and many others like you were running for their cause?
Yes.
How did you get that message across to them?
I think we have a line of communication between South Africa and Palestine simply because of the BDS movement. And a lot of people found, I didn't know that they found out. My colleagues knew they found out. And the message of support poured in. It was so overwhelming that Palestinians knew, and they were following this story on social media and so on. Because I've been running for quite some time. And for me, it's something that I do, and I find comfort in doing for the Palestinians. And they kind of like found out and like, oh, we appreciate what you're doing over there. And the message of support really did pour in. And of course, like I said, I think we can always do more. And I think in the next Comrades Marathon, in the next marathon to run, many runners out there who are at home sitting there like, let me take up that cause. Let me run for that cause. So it won't be Ali and Suleiman only. But if you're 20 next year and the other year were 40, and the number goes up and there are many runners who run for the Palestinian cause, that would be wonderful.
What else do you do at BDS? Let's assume in the ideal world that tomorrow common sense prevails, that Israel is no longer the puppet of the United States, and they then decide to emancipate the people of Palestine, give back all the land that they've stolen, and give them freedom of movement, and it becomes a two-state territory. So people go about their business as normally as you and I do after the breakdown of apartheid. What is the BDS going to be doing then? And what is Ali Komapi's role going to be? Which fight are you then going to be taking up?
I think actually the BDS movement was initiated by Palestinians. Palestinians said, we are oppressed, we are asking for the return of all refugees, the end of apartheid policies, return of stolen Palestinian land and so on, those demands. When those demands are met, Palestinians need to tell us, okay, we're fine, great, we got your help, go on with your lives, and then we'll go on with our lives and do other things. But we operate at the pleasure of the Palestinians. They tell us what to do, and that's the kind of solidarity.
Oh, so you get to brief from them, so to speak.
Yes, this is the kind of solidarity you give to an oppressed person. We always talk about how victims must be at the front of what they want. So the oppressed always tell you this is the kind of help we need. It's not like the United States that goes to countries and say, we're here to give you democracy, when people have not asked for it. So Palestinians have asked for certain things, including the BDS movement work. So when that is done, they'll tell us what more do they need, or they're fine. And I think for people like Ali Komapi, we'll go on to other international causes because we believe in that particular activism. So the people of Western Sahara, as long as Morocco occupies illegally their land, the people of Swaziland, the people of Cuba. So we will.
Let's understand the Swaziland story. Just refresh our memories.
So basically, citizens of Swaziland says that the monarchy of Swaziland is guilty of gross human rights violations. There's no democracy, political parties are not allowed, trade union activists are being arrested without trial. So gross human rights violations continue to happen in Swaziland. And I think there's one South African activist who's been languishing in Swazi jails for some time now, and they've called on South Africans to give them solidarity when they are going through under such human rights violations.
So the fight will continue wherever the need is for oppressed people's rights to be emancipated, obviously.
Yes, of course.
Have you personally been to Palestine?
I have not been to Palestine.
Are you persona non grata? You won't be allowed entry, I presume?
I think, Julie, for me, I'm quite an impatient person. I don't think I'll fare well with the Israeli military occupiers. But I would love to go someday to Palestine. Now, the love that we've developed over the years is amazing for the Palestinian people. And many Palestinians come to South Africa, by the way. It's a country that they love coming to. But I've not been to Palestine. I know because of the BDS blacklist and the number of activists that have not been allowed into Palestine specifically. Surely I'm one of them, and I have no interest in negotiating my way into Palestine through the Israeli occupiers.
Working at the BDS, being so vested in the Palestinian issue, your heart obviously bleeds for them. Every time you hear of a new or a latest atrocity, it must send you in a fit of rage, probably. But as you read and see the situation, do you believe there's hope for the Palestinian people? I mean, they've been entrapped by I don't know what other word to use apart from entrapped, imprisoned, subjugated for years and years and years on end. And it seems to be getting progressively worse rather than the easing of their dire situation. Do you see any light at the end of the tunnel? Do you believe possibly in the next 5-10 years' time there might be some form or sort of resolution? Or do you think this is still a long, hard battle that they're going to fight?
I think, Julie, history is the best teacher, and I'm going to tell you a story that Palestinians love telling us South Africans. After 1976, the massacre in Soweto, there was a huge exodus of South Africans who went to exile to fight. So part of the people who are training them in arms are Palestinians. They gave them arms, they trained them Palestinians from the PLO. So they used to joke around that when you are free, you will help me fight for my freedom. They said, no, when you are free, you will help me fight for my freedom. And for many of them, they never believed it. Of course, they had the conviction that my homeland would be free, but they never thought it could be sooner like this in South Africa. It's just they never thought it could happen. And when it happened, many of them really did not believe it. And for history told us that the South African context, where the situation was getting worse with the Bishop massacres, South Africa got its freedom when we were at the brink of civil war with the killing, the assassination of Chris Hani and so on. Nobody believed we'll get our freedom. People believed the country would be plunged into civil war, but we have our freedom here today. So history is the best teacher for me, and I believe with the conviction that Palestine will be free from Israeli apartheid, similar to our case in South Africa. Of course,
you can't put a date to it.
I can't put a timeline on it tomorrow, but the sooner the better. And I think for Palestinians who continue to live in exile, have their activism in exile, and fight for the Palestinian freedom in exile, they have the same belief. They wake up every day up on their feet that, today we're going to fight for a free Palestine, and they continue to do so. They don't give up, and they don't die on their knees. Palestinians rather die fighting for their freedom, and that's the spirit that is necessary for the liberation of an oppressed people.
You've seen pictures, you've seen footage of the dire situation of the Palestinian people. You know just how restricted they are and how subjugated they are, even seeking medical help. Once they do get their freedom, what do you believe the country is going to look like? And do you believe they're going to turn on the Israelis? Or do you believe that they're going to be so magnanimous like Nelson Mandela that they will live in peace side by side with their former oppressors?
What the Western media has done and what the Israeli media has done is to successfully, or try to successfully, I may say, perceive Palestinians as terrorists, right? So it has never, the question about millions of Jewish people around the world who support the Palestinian cause, the Israeli media doesn't want to talk about that. They want to talk about how Palestinians are wrong, Palestinians are terrorists. Now, Julie, there's an increasing number in the world. The Jewish community says not in our name. Israel does not perpetuate such crimes in our name. In South Africa,
there's a difference between the Jewish people, fair-minded Jewish people, as opposed to Zionists.
Of course, of course. But let's simplify that discussion to say, for instance, in South Africa, there were white people who said, well, apartheid is wrong and they can't do it in my name. We have them now, former Minister Derek Hanekom, who's an Afrikaner man, who said, my Afrikaner heritage does not say I must support an apartheid system. So when Palestinians are free, I have no doubt that they will live in harmony with Jewish Israelis also who want to live in harmony with them. Just like AfriForum in South Africa and other right-wing Afrikaner organizations, we can't force them to live happy alongside other South Africans. Those who want to do so, they do so. Those who don't want, of course, it's their business. So progressive Jewish Israelis who want to live alongside Palestinians in a flourishing society, they'll do so. Nobody's stopping them. And those who are hateful, those who are racist, those who are oppressive, I don't think there's a place for them in the world, and Palestinians don't have a place for them as well.
And you say history will right the wrongs of apartheid in Palestine and other parts of the world where people are being oppressed. We've just come out of June the 16th. Youth Day was celebrated in South Africa. We do know that we're celebrating Youth Day, and in the name of our youth, what do you believe is the threat now to South African youth? In a half a minute, please tell me very quickly.
I think complacency is the biggest threat to the youth, youth of this country. For instance, Julie, when you see service delivery protests in many communities, it's the youth that are leading them. So the narrative that the youth is lazy and they sitting on their butts doing nothing is incorrect. So when more the youth of our country gets complacent, they go to substance abuse, or the case is they sit back. Now that's the threat. The youth needs to progressively raise issues of the youth almost on every platform, be it in parliament, be it on ITV, be it anywhere that they find space. They must voice out their issues.
We do know very quickly that 27% of our youth are unemployed. Do you believe if government created jobs for those 27% of youth, we'll rid the country of a majority of our problems, like drug abuse, etc.?
Of course,
lawlessness, criminality.
Definitely. Scientific evidence shows that the rise in employment gives a down rise in criminality, in poverty, inequality, in all the other historic, systematic results of apartheid. So give young people jobs, and you'll see a better life for South Africans at large.
Well spoken, and keep running for the Palestinians, and in the process become super fit. Thank you indeed for being with us, and our best wishes to everyone at BDS.
Okay.
There you have it, Ali Komape talking to us about running for the Palestinians. Still to come, we're going to be talking about saving the babies of South Africa. Welcome back to the final segment of our show this morning, and we're going to be talking to two ladies from an organization called the Tree of Hope. It is said that in South Africa, approximately 3,500 babies are abandoned every year. So what happens to these babies? And if they're not rescued, does it mean that they die? Do they die in toilets, in dustbins, in the gutters? What are we as South Africans doing, and what's our responsibility? Who is the Tree of Hope, and do we need more such organizations in South Africa? And how do we become participants in saving the babies of South Africa? Lilani and Jamie, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Morning. Hi.
Now, Lilani, you started an organization called the Tree of Hope. Tell us why and how it got started.
I have a nursery school, and over the years, people used to leave babies at the nursery school gate.
The first time it happened, what was your reaction? Were you shocked? Horror?
It happened on the 1st of April, so we actually thought it was a joke.
Oh, my word.
There was a little 8-month-old little boy. They left him, and at that moment, I was out. And I came back to school, and they said somebody left the baby, and I laughed it off. Left the baby in my office, carried on, thought, somebody will come clean. Around about 6, everybody's gone home, baby was still there, and I thought, maybe I need to read the letter that came with the baby. And I've, phoned my husband. I said, listen, I'm bringing a little one home. You need to get bottles and stuff, because at that stage I was living quite far away from the school. Found the social worker. I said, somebody left a baby here today. Today he's 11 years old. He's doing so well with his adoptive mommy.
Okay, and you still keep contact with those babies that get left on your doorstep?
Yes.
At the time you were running a creche. Mm-hmm. Do you still run the creche?
Yes.
So what is the Tree of Hope all about?
The Tree of Hope was, because of the babies that's been left there, the last little girl I actually almost missed. It was by sheer luck that I actually used that specific gate at that evening. And also there was babies left in rubbish bins in Edenvale, 2 that I know of. And I just decided to use the back of my nursery school. There's a big tree there, which is almost like a shelter. And I've decided to put a baby box in there, like a baby safe. So if you don't want your baby or you can't take care of your baby, you can put the baby in the baby box instead of leaving it on the grass. And there's an alarm in the baby box that will sound. We normally give them 4 minutes or so, because it must be anonymous. And then we'll go and take the baby out. There's a camera that monitors the baby. So as soon as the alarm goes off, it's linked to my phone. wherever I am, I can actually, lock in. I can see the baby that's left there, and then we go and take the baby out.
And then you get directly in touch with social services, and that's where you come in, Jamie.
Yes.
Welcome to the program. You are a social worker.
Yes, I'm a statutory social worker, which means a legal social worker.
How's that different to a regular social worker?
So you get all kinds of social workers. You get social workers who work in hospitals and in schools, but a statutory social worker is one of the few social workers who are actually allowed to remove children out of harmful situations or help abandon children, and also I go to court.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's the situation like? Leilani just told us that babies are left at the Tree of Hope, and her situation when it started has led her to establish Tree of Hope. Do you find people, are there situations, and what do you do in a case like that, where babies left on someone's doorstep? They then take the baby, do not report it, and raise the child as their own, or as a relative's baby that they're taking care of.
Yeah, I would never recommend doing that, because most of these babies come without documents. So it means that baby would probably grow up without having a birth certificate, and therefore not being able to be schooled or get proper medical care or any kind of things that the baby needs. It also creates a problem for later on if the parents, maybe they knew who they had dumped the baby with, to later then come back and say they want the baby, because legally it's their baby still. So you would have no grounds after you've raised this baby, and you would now have to almost give it back. But we do get those situations.
Tree of Hope, is this a legal entity?
Baby boxes are not illegal, but they're also not legal. It's a very grey area in South Africa. So basically, it's your responsibility to inform the authorities. So once a baby is left in our box, we phone the South African Police Services. We phone a paramedic to obviously have a look and make sure baby's healthy, and we phone the social worker. And something that I'm campaigning for is, that they can legalise safe abandonments, because in South Africa abandonment is illegal. Our law doesn't make provision for a safe abandonment.
So when you say an abandonment is illegal, does it suggest that if I want to abandon my baby and if I'm caught in the act, am I in trouble with the law?
Yes.
What sort of trouble? What would I serve a sentence, a fine? Would the child be taken away from me simply because it is now deemed that I'm not a fit enough mother?
So a criminal case gets open regardless if you are caught or not. We have to do that because that's the law. We try by all means to keep the animals anonymous for the mom, so that she feels that it is a safe place. But if she is caught, she can serve a jail sentence.
Ooh, okay.
Because it's abandonment.
So it's that serious.
It's that serious.
However, you do then try to place the child either in foster care and then go on to have the child adopted. Is this going to be regulated at some point?
So right now what happens if we get an abandoned baby and the parents have 90 days to come forward, there is a letter left in the Tree of Hope. It tells them that if they do change their mind or anything, they can come. There's, our child welfare is in this letter. Where our address is, they can come and see us. But if we don't hear anything for 90 days, then that baby, first it will go into a place of safety, then after foster care, and after the 90 days legally, it is up for adoption.
Leilani, we've been hearing, at the introduction of the segment, I indicated, and this was, I think, a stats given by you or other authorities, suggesting that 3,500, and these are babies that we know, 3,500 babies are abandoned every year in South Africa. We do know that the numbers are way beyond that. Despite the high number of abandonments, people are still complaining that there's such red tape involved in adopting babies. Why?
Oh, gosh.
They wait for years and years and years till they finally give up.
Gosh, I empathize with all those parents. We have so many parents who can't have children, and then we have babies that are abandoned. It almost feels unfair. But it's just the red tape that is the law. You know, there's adverts that have to be placed and left, and other social workers have to get involved. There's a screening process. It's honestly, you just feel like all the forces work against you when you try and place these babies.
You're at the coalface of abandoned babies. Do you believe that something can and should be done about preventing baby abandonment?
Yes, there's quite a few things. We were actually discussing it, you know, while we were waiting. You know, in South Africa, you can have an abortion, or you can give consent to an abortion from the age of, stand to correct it, but I think it's 12 or 14. Yet you cannot give your baby up for adoption and if you're under the age of 18.
Why not?
Your parents has to consent to you
Okay.
giving that baby up for adoption. So if I'm 17, I fall pregnant, I'm desperate, what do? I abandon the baby because my parents won't allow me to give the baby up for adoption. That's one of the things. The other thing are foreigners. You know, they don't have the right documentation. Now they're in South Africa, now they have this baby. They can't register the baby, they can't get services for the baby, health services and stuff. Then they give the baby up for and they can't give their baby up for adoption in South Africa. So what do? They dump the baby. There are quite a few factors. Poverty.
I'm thinking that this opens up the door to child or baby trafficking, does it not? How big a problem is that?
Child trafficking is a huge problem in South Africa.
Because they actually get sold for money.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, we do walks in Edenvale to prevent child trafficking, but realistically, child trafficking happens every day. And I read a statistic, I'm not sure if it's true, but they say a child goes missing every 5 hours in South Africa, which I mean is absolutely heartbreaking if you think about that. So, I mean, it does open the door for child trafficking, but we want to create a safe place, a legal platform to, if you don't want your baby, this is your option. This is your final safe haven. Let us help you.
It's such a noble idea, and yet people get daunted simply because of the red tape, or afraid of being caught and be viewed as abandoning their babies and possibly getting into serious trouble with the law. Now, I see that we have something called Baby Savers or Baby Saver work. How does that tie in with Tree of Hope?
We're a group of ladies that we all have baby saves. That's like the baby hatches, the baby boxes. Currently, there are 36 baby savers in South Africa.
And not nearly enough, I should imagine.
No, and the thing is too, you know, I feel that one of the things that we can do, and especially from the government side, with this problem of baby abandonment in South Africa, is change the law. Make provision for safe abandonments, in the sense of, if you think about the USA, they've got the the safe haven law, where you can walk into a fire station, a police station, or a hospital. You can hand over your baby and you can walk out. They're not allowed to stop you. They're not allowed to talk to you. They must just take that baby from you and allow you to walk away.
So hopefully you're working on that type of scenario in South Africa.
That's what we want. You know, that's what we want. We want the law to make provision for that. At the moment, if a mom does that, it's a criminal offence.
Absolutely.
And we want that taken away. We want it to be safe. The baby
Okay,
boxes,
we're running out of time. Can I just very quickly ask you, how can we as the general public assist in this process?
Pressure on the government that we can change this law, or that they can start to, or that they can make the baby boxes legal and regulate those baby boxes, because at the moment they're not regulated, and I feel they need to be regulated. Okay, we'll come back
to the regulation of the baby boxes. Let's go for an ad break and we'll talk some more right after. We're talking Tree of Hope, we're talking baby savers, and we know the situation in South Africa is dire, very especially for those people who are wanting to adopt babies. They just give up after a while because of the red tape. But stay tuned, there is hope at the end of the tunnel. We're talking saving the South African babies, and I think the same scenario would apply all around the world. We're looking at the issue around baby abandonment. Why do people abandon their babies? Well, I guess there are different reasons for a mother being so desperate. Perhaps she is dirt poor, perhaps her situation's very tenuous. God alone knows why they reach a point where they abandon their babies. And then you have organizations like Tree of Hope that offers some hope. Leilani and dear Jamie, you've been involved for a while. How do you guys detach from these babies emotionally? I'm sure that when they left on your doorstep or when you come in to take the baby to a place of safety, there has to be a bit of bonding going on. You can't be that aloof and mechanical not to form bonds and then hand the baby over.
Sure. So I know generally when I get a baby first, I always tell everyone to make sure they kangaroo the baby. So I'll always put the baby in my jacket and I'll hold that baby because I spend a full day with that baby. And obviously after then I still have interaction. It is difficult, but there comes a point where it's just, this is what needs to be done. This is why I'm here. I'm saving a life and that's my job. So I detach at that thought and knowing that tonight this baby doesn't end up in a bin. Tonight he's going to have a safe place to sleep.
Leilani, on your side, have you ever wanted to just keep the baby for yourself?
All of them. But normally, what happens is because I'm a screened foster mom, so they will, like this baby that was left with us on Friday, the baby could only go to court on Tuesday, so the baby could actually only be placed on Tuesday. So then,
and does the court appearances happen very soon, unlike
it's
other
normally
cases?
within 24 hours.
And this is at family court, I should imagine.
Magistrates court.
Okay.
Yeah. So it has to happen within 24 hours. But I mean, sometimes it happens that like the baby was left on a Friday, there is no court on Saturday or Sunday, and then the baby will have to stay over. For a few nights. But what we do is you care for the baby and yes, you feel for the baby, but I see myself as a tool in this baby's future. So I see myself as part of his future, but not part of his long-term future. I'm a tool. I was placed there to help this baby for a few days. But once the baby goes, especially if they go to their forever family, I'm overjoyed.
Because, they truly have found their families.
Yes.
We've talked about approximately 3,500 babies being abandoned. We know that the figure is way, way higher than that. Do that many babies, or do a fair amount of them come through you? And are you absolutely certain that they do go to good homes? And do you track them? Do you kind of follow their progress just to make sure that they are in a safe place?
Yes, so whenever we have prospective foster parents that come, of course I interview them and I go do a home visit. There's a lot of paperwork involved, but it's a connection. I can just feel it. It's not about what you tell me or what you're putting down on paper. It's a love affair, I can say, between them seeing this child and me just getting a sense of who they are. And through that, I feel extremely confident in all of my foster parents. And I would not place a baby if I had even a single doubt.
And you keep tabs. You go on regular home visits over the months, over the years, I should imagine.
Yes.
What would be the biggest factor that would prevent you from handing over a baby or dismissing that particular couple as being foster or adoptive parents?
Yeah, it's hard to say. There could be any factors. Maybe something just doesn't sit well and I'm just not getting, maybe I didn't see that love affair happen. And, people return foster children later on in life. I'll be honest with you, people can actually return them. So I'm trying to create a situation that I see this family bond happen, and if I can't see that family bond going to happen and transpire in the future, that's already a bit of a red flag for me, because each baby has a family, so we have to just make sure we fit them correctly.
Adoptive parents complain about the long waiting period before they can get a baby, and yet we are told so many babies are being abandoned. What's happening to these babies that are abandoned, that they're not going to loving homes timelessly? Where do those babies end up that these people, adoptive parents, can't get hold of the babies?
Oh, it's a terrible situation. So what happens is
There seems to be a gap.
There's a huge gap, and it's very frustrating for social workers because everyone wants a baby. We'll be honest, everyone wants a small baby, but the moment that these children are a little bit older, they sit in children's homes and they have no chance of being adopted.
Why is that?
No one wants to take on, I don't want to sound horrible, but like they have the mentality that they don't want to take on someone else's problem. Like this child will be too hard to now fit into their family at a later age, where a baby can still be almost groomed into each person's home and family. So we sit with hundreds of children in children's homes that will sit there until they're 18. I have a baby that went straight from the hospital into a children's home. She has no idea of any other life.
How sad, how terribly heartbreaking. We in South Africa, this is a rainbow nation, and yet I've been told that there are restrictions as far as placing white babies with white families, black babies with black families, and I just believe that if you have all the love in the world to give to this baby, regardless of its color or culture, for goodness sake, hand the baby over. It's going to be in a safe, warm, loving, happy family. I'm going to come to both of you for responses. Let's start with you, Jamie.
So for me, it's not really about race, I'll be honest. It's about those parents seeing that baby, and then once again, I just see that love affair happen. So I actually placed an African baby the other day with white parents.
Wow.
So for me, it's just
Was that a particular request from the white parents? Did they want an African baby?
No, you know what? They didn't even want a baby boy. They had their mindset that they were going to maybe get a white baby girl, and they had even painted
Blue
the nursery.
eyes and blonde hair.
100%. And you know, when I picked up this little baby and I showed them, it's like their whole world changed.
Gosh.
And you know, nothing mattered after that. The nursery that was already pink, or his race or his anything, nothing mattered. And so for me, it's about the love affair.
How very precious. Your thoughts, Leilani?
You know, I'm one of those people that listen to both sides. I fostered African children before, and I love them dearly. But there are groups that feel that children should be placed, if it's an African child, with an African family because of cultural issues, and they say, you know, the child's always going to feel that the child doesn't belong. But then you've got other cases where, you know, a lot of people don't see colour.
Or culture for that matter.
Mm-hmm. There's an Afrikaans singer by the name of Refensi. He is an African man, but he sings in Afrikaans because I think, I stand to be corrected, he was raised by a white family. So for me, you know, it doesn't really, a child's a child, and you place a child where the child's going to receive love and have a mommy and a daddy and a forever family. But there are certain groups that feel that children should be placed within their own culture. The children that I had, I could actually see in, you know, but they were older. They were much older. They were intermediate phase, you know, that age group. And I could see, you know, when there were African shows on TV, they were very interested. They were very interested in their culture. And eventually they were adopted by an African family, and they just, the older girl actually told me the one day, she said she belongs.
Is it true? I've read many stories over the years about children that have been adopted, that once they reach age of consent, 18 or 21, depending which country they've grown up in, that they yearn, they grow up as much as they get love, unconditional love from their adoptive families, that they eventually want to go out and find their birth parents. Is that true, and how do you as a social worker deal with that?
Gosh, I think it's nature to just want to know where you come from. So I think that's
It's almost like a hole in your soul.
Yeah, it's a whole, you know, as much as you know that you were raised well and you were loved, there will always be that thing at the back of your mind. Where did I come from? Who do I look like? My parents? Like, there will always be questions because humans, that's how we are. You know,
We want that connection.
you want that connection.
We've almost come to the end of the show. Let me ask you this very important question. What's the difference between fostering and adopting?
Okay, so foster care, it's for 2 years. You get a court order to look after a child for 2 years, and every 2 years you can go back to court and renew that foster care. You can't travel overseas with that child, and legally the parents still have their rights to that child. Parents can even still visit that child in a supervised setting. Adoption is when you've taken over full guardianship. You have all the rights, the parents have almost no rights.
In South Africa, very, very quickly, do we keep records of the child's natural parents for perhaps later in life if they want to make contact with them?
We try our best. If we have files, they'll never be destroyed. They're always going to archives, always. So we're trying, if we have the details, they will be kept.
And you just need to go out and find it. Ladies, thank you indeed for being with us. A final thought from you, Lilani.
If people are, there's a whole list of all the baby boxes in South Africa on a website called Open Arms SA. So if you want to know the location of a baby box in your area or close to you,
Or perhaps even start a baby box in your area.
Yeah, so go on to Open Arms SA and then you'll find a list of the boxes. And then my one last thought is if you save one child, you save a nation.
Absolutely. Thank you indeed. Continue the amazing work saving lives and, more importantly, saving babies. Go well, God bless, and thank you for being with us on the show this morning.
Thank you.
And that's where we leave it. Thank you indeed for your company. Loved having you on the show today. Till Saturday morning at the same time as always, take care on the roads. And it is Assalamu alaikum and Khuda Hafiz from me, Julie Alli.
قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا حني قلبي على جمعة الخير